If you're a single woman over 40 looking for Mr. Right and you're ready to learn how to access your intuition to find love, you're in the right place. In this episode, as an intuitive love coach, I'm sharing how to know if it's really your intuition and not your fear talking. Welcome to episode 3 of season 3. And we're really diving into all about intuition and mastering your intuition to find love. Today, I want to talk about a very important topic, which is how to know the difference between your actual intuitive messages versus fears or self-sabotaging, or you're just in your head and your head is spinning you around in circles. And if you don't know me, I'm an intuitive dating coach, and I have a couple of episodes in season 1 talking all about my love journey and my story from being a single hot mess express, as I call it, to finding the love of my life in my 40s. And that journey has been instrumental in really about finding my true self, connecting to myself, feeling at home, being more confident in my skin, and in that on that journey, finding love and how it basically all came together. So in other words, when you find yourself and you find your true self, you find true love. And so I'm teaching about intuition, and I've been a Reiki teacher since 2010, and I've been on a spiritual journey and really finding out what life is all about, what is really beyond our regular day-to-day life for decades. And it's always been an interest of mine, personal development and energy work and all of those things. And so I'm really here with a lot of experience, personal experience, and working with women around the world for over 15 years. So I want to break down things that are confusing. And this topic is really, I'd say, at the top of the list of confusion and, getting questions around intuition is how can you really tell it's your intuition? And I wanted to just kind of go underneath, what is this question actually asking? And what it's saying is, how can I trust myself? And how can I trust the universe when I've had my heart broken so many times, or I feel like I've listened to my intuition and it's led me down a terrible path, or something that's just not turned out the way I wanted it to, and that's not how it's supposed to be. So we're talking about expectations. Like, do you expect that if you listen to your intuition, that everything will turn out as a fairy tale love romance? And that's not always the case. I'll explain why in a minute. And our expectation might be that, if we follow our intuition, it'll be easy and there won't be any fear. And it'll just be like the universe rolling out the red carpet, which is also not what happens. And so I would take a moment right now to think about, what are you expecting when you say, I'm going to follow my intuition? What do you expect is going to happen? And the last piece of that is, expecting an outcome. A certain outcome. Of course, we want to be able to say, I'm listening to my intuition and therefore everything was amazing and easy and it just all fell into place. And then I met the one, the love of my life, and here we are. Of course, that can happen, and that is the ideal situation. That is what we want to happen. But there are so many, and what if this happens? What if that happens underneath that? And what might happen before we meet the one? What we need to actually learn and process or go through before we meet someone. And so there's so many variables there. The only thing we have to be is open and willing to give it a try, open and willing to tap into your intuition and access it, which we went into in the last episode. So if you want to learn about how to access your intuition specifically, go and listen to that episode. And if you want to go back a little further, we did the Intuition 101, the basics and the foundation of what is your intuition in episode 1. So you can go back and listen to those if you need to get caught up after this episode. It's not something you have to do 1, 2, 3, but if you want to build on the foundation and build on the learning, you can go in order of episode 1, 2, and now episode 3. I want to think about this in a holistic way as I always approach things. And being involved with intuition means you are looking at the body, you're discovering how the body works, how your body responds to things, and how your mind responds to things, your typical response, and then how your emotions are responding to things, and then the overall big picture of connecting to something that's greater than you. It doesn't have to be about religion. This is just going beyond the regular day-to-day life of you in your body, going to work, getting up, having breakfast, etc. Think of it as, we're going in layers and we're learning intuition from different perspectives. I say all this because we need to look at things as a big picture and then the layers of it before we can answer the question, is this actually my intuition? Or is this fear? Is this me self-sabotaging? Am I just in my head? And so to answer those questions, we have to look at those pieces. First thing I want to talk about is how do we break these down? So if we think, is this my intuition or is it fear? That's the number one thing. Is it fear? Is it my self-sabotaging? So I'm running in the opposite direction of something instead of moving towards it. If I'm afraid, that would be a way to think of self-sabotaging. Am I in my head? So I'm listening to my head, I'm listening to my logic, and I'm listening to just my mental aspect, which is only one tiny part of everything, and which is the most unhelpful thing, I would say, is your mind. Your mind really has no idea what's going on. Your mind is here for logic and for you to, put one foot in front of the other and do things in a more practical way, but it really doesn't have any background or conceptual idea of the big picture of what your heart wants and what your intuition is moving you towards. So it's the least helpful piece. And anyone who is an intuitive person or who is into personal development will know that the mind is really an unreliable source. Or is it a pure intuitive message? So how can I tell? First, I want you to look at the mind. When your mind is telling you something versus your intuition, so asking, okay, am I just in my head? The answer to that is the mind is really chaotic and very fast-paced. And you know this if you've ever tried to quiet your mind and be more mindful, your head will be going in a million different directions. So you'll have thoughts that are all over the place. They're rapid fire, like if you're getting ready for a date and then you've got this, what if the guy doesn't like me? And what if he notices my hair and he doesn't like my clothes? Or what if I say the wrong thing? And, your thoughts will be just coming one after the other really, really quickly and very, very unnerving and puts you into a state of anxiety, of confusion, of self-doubt. So it just sets off all of these nervous system responses of anxiety and chaos. And that's what the mind is doing. The mind can very easily be recognized because it's one thought rapidly after another or dovetailing off each other, or it could go in opposite directions. One second you're thinking, oh my God, I can't go on this date because I'm not ready. The next minute you're like, oh, I have to go on this date because that's what I put myself out there for. This is what I'm doing. And it will go back and forth like a ping pong. That's how you recognize your mind. And the consequence of being in your head and listening to those thoughts is it will set off this cascade of physical reactions. So your body will start to get tense. You might get a lot of anxiety or shallow breathing or just the shakes or whatever your body is doing in response to these rapid fire, fearful thoughts. So that's how you can recognize being in your head versus an intuitive message. The second part is, okay, is this fear and self-sabotage, or this is actually my intuition? Fear and self-sabotage is also very similar to just being in your head, that you'll get a list of reasons why. Your head will start to say, well, we shouldn't trust this person because of what happened in the past. Remember last time when you went on that date or you got involved with that guy? This is exactly the same scenario. And these are all the reasons why you should cancel the date. And it will be like boom, 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 boom. And that's your fear talking. because it will be the same type of thing. It's not based on anything in the here and now. It's based on your past. It's based on the information you've gathered from other people, maybe the messages you received as a child or from your family members. Never trust this kind of person. Never let yourself open up. Don't trust others, whatever it is. Your mind is going to give you a full explanation of why you should be doing something or not doing something. And that's a fearful, self-sabotaging kind of thing that you can recognize pretty easily because it's also very extreme. The logic of the sabotaging self is very extreme. Like, if we do this, we're going to end up, in 5 years, we're going to be totally alone again and we'll never find anyone ever again. If we don't get this date perfect, it's going to be ruined and you might as well totally give up any dating app and just be alone with your cats forever. And that's another way of recognizing the self-sabotaging, fearful self. It will tell you these things in a very extreme way, cut and dry, black and white, huge consequences. Okay, so that's the self-sabotaging, fearful self. And so we talked about being in your head and the fearful self. And so what is actually an intuitive message then? An intuitive message is simple. It is very straightforward, it feels pure. It feels very heart-centered. So it's logical. It makes sense, but in a whole body way. It's an inner knowing. It's a feeling of safety. It feels calm. There's a lot of love behind it. It's infused with love. Let me give you an example. So when I went on my date with my husband, not knowing, of course, he was going to be my husband, before I went on the date, I was in my head and I was doing exactly what I described earlier. My thoughts were ping-ponging back and forth and saying, I'm not ready for this. I can't go on this date. I don't want to reveal myself. I don't want to open my heart. What if I get hurt? I don't know how to talk on a date. I can't make conversation. He's never going to like me. What if he does like me and I have to be myself? What if I have to open up? That's too scary. And so I was having this rapid fire conversation for hours in my head. And I was just one big ball of stress and anxiety. And I could not get myself grounded. I was just all over the place. And then my self-sabotaging self and fearful self was saying, no, okay, you're going to cancel. You're going to cancel this date and just tell him you had an emergency. You're going to lie. And then the next minute it would be like, no, you can't be that kind of person. The next second it was like, you just have to do it anyway. Who cares? You don't even know him. He'll never see you and you'll never know who he is. So just do it. Just cancel. And those were the in my head and the fearful sabotaging self telling me all the reasons why and what I needed to do. I did that and I was all over the place, and yet I still got ready as I was doing my hair and makeup, as I was putting on my clothes. It was just this constant battle in my head and this feeling of just being all over the place. Yet something was gently and lovingly nudging me forward. It felt like this pure, loving whisper in the background that was saying, just go, give it a try. This is going to be wonderful. You'll be surprised. And it was very subtle, and it would be just dropping in between this rapid fire conversation and this fearful, chaotic self that was all over the place. And every time there was a space, and any kind of a space, would drop in this feeling of excitement. But it was a safe, pure, calm feeling of excitement. So I was grounded at the same time. And it was this little loving nudge that had me arguing and going chaotic, but still leaving my house, walking to the restaurant, walking around the corner. And then my heart just lifted like this beautiful flower and blossomed with this feeling of warmth and expansion in my heart. And it was just like this most beautiful thing. I just turned the corner and I saw him and I was just like, my whole heart lifted. And so my last thing that I really want to talk about is you're not necessarily going to get rid of this fearful battle, this self-sabotaging self, your conversation in your head. That's still going to be there, but you get to decide which one you are going to actually live your life by. Are you going to live your life by these chaotic influences, or are you going to live your life from that deep inner knowing of that calm, loving self, that intuitive self that is telling you it's okay. It's okay. This is going to be great. You are okay. And so just take a moment to realize and tune in for yourself that it's not going to be just one thing that's happening necessarily. It's not going to be just your intuition. I don't really know anybody who is like just living on pure intuitive influence and just pure heart-centered. I mean, I'm sure there's like, the Buddha or God, Jesus, whatever, those archetypes, those people that are, called enlightened or awakened are going to be on a different level. But most of us are going to be having several different experiences at the same time. And it's really, what are you going to listen to and what are you going to lean into? What are you going to give the chance to? Is it going to be the fearful self? Is it going to be the ping pong conversation in your head? Or is it going to be that beautiful intuitive message and intuitive guidance? So think about that for a second. And I'll give you a few more pointers to think about to differentiate. Your mind might tell you that your intuition has to look and feel a certain way and try to convince you, oh, well, this is not your intuition because it's supposed to feel like this. Or I heard this, or I read in a book that intuition is XYZ. And that's being rigid and perfectionist, or thinking that you're doing something wrong, making yourself wrong, or wondering, am I doing it right? Well, this isn't the way it should be. I don't think this is the way it's supposed to feel, look, or sound. Therefore, I'm not going to trust that this is my intuition. And that's your mind is playing tricks on you. You need to figure out over time with practice when your mind is really talking a big talk and taking you away from where you need to be. Emotionally, on an emotional level, telling yourself that intuition has to feel a certain way or saying this is not what I should be feeling is going into the judgment space, the emotional judgment space. You'll need to watch for that also to realize maybe your intuition is allowing you to feel jealousy or to feel lonely or to connect into these deep emotional experiences so that you can move forward and move towards what you truly desire. Intuition has never felt a certain way for me. It has come through in the way that it needs to come through at the time to propel me forward, to allow me to embrace that experience. And many times it has been different. My intuition has shown up as a beautiful feeling in my body, like the lightness in my heart. It has shown up as messages that are literal messages. So I'll hear a song or I'll be drawn to a book and open a page and read about the exact thing I need to learn or do. Or it'll come through somebody else telling me their story about something and being really inspired by it. This is all your intuition talking, which is why we can't get tied to how it has to show up in a certain way or how it has to be in your body, thinking you have to hear something in your head or see something or feel something. It's going to be dynamic based on your life stage, what you're doing, and what you need. It can show up in any manner of ways. The only common thread is that it has a feeling or a sense of that knowing, that safety, that sense of home, being held and supported, and that loving nudge. When it comes to taking action, you want to move through what I call my framework of letting love in, taking the first piece, your awareness. What do I start to feel like? And what does it sound like when I have a fearful self or a self-sabotaging self that's trying to take over? What are those experiences like? And you can journal about that. And then having the acceptance of this is what I'm experiencing. This is how I've been. I've listened to my mind. I've listened to all the self-sabotaging, and that's okay. And I accept and love myself through this whole process. And finally, moving into that connection piece of connecting to your heart, connecting to your body, being in your intuitive self, allowing it to move forward and move through you and allow you to move with it and experience what you're meant to experience in this life and what you want to create and the love that you are desiring. I hope this has been helpful to let you know how to discern and how to tell the difference between your intuitive messages versus your fears and self-sabotaging or being in your head, so that you can really get a handle on mastering your intuition to find love. And next week, we're going to be talking about best practices and exercises to developing your intuition. So I hope you join me. And remember, love is closer than you think.